What's going on, everyone? Justin here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Just wanted to quickly overview some of the diagnostic tools that I've been using to resolve the issues that I have on my Lotus Evora ever since I did the salvage restoration of it. So I'll start with the generic tools. So I have an AEM gauge that I kind of slapped on the dash. I monitor that throughout the the ride. Basically, I could check any of the parameters. I'll go into a proprietary tool. This one is from SL Diagnostics. And then I'll go into the more professional one that I have in my garage. This is a Launchpad 5, all of which will allow me to diagnose the Lotus, but they have varying uses, pros and cons. And so I'll cover all that in this. So jump right in, starting with the most generic one, the AEM gauge. Stand by. All right, so I wanted to start with the simplest tool in the toolbox. This is an OBD scanner, basically, one of the generic ones you could get from AutoZone or some auto parts store for cheap. But this is an AEM OBDII gauge. It basically plugs into my OBD port. It allows me to constantly monitor the parameters of the car. And so it's basically a generic diagnostic tool with limited capabilities. You can see I power up the car. It starts up with it. Right off the bat, it'll show me the battery voltage. And I could kind of page through to see other parameters like coolant temp, which is actually, this is the one I leave it on all the time. Coolant temp, engine speed, fuel level, ignition tables, left trim, right trim, vehicle speed sensor, etc., etc. So depending on the car, you're going to get different values here, different parameters rather. So you could have anywhere from like, I guess, 12 to like maybe 30 or so. If I go into DTC, it'll show that there's no codes. If there was a code present, it would populate there, and I could also clear. That's basically all it allows you to do. That's basically what a generic scanner would allow you to do. It just interfaces with the ECU module. It just allows you to do read out of certain data streams or just checking the engine codes, any errors, and then clearing it out. A lot of times you could also check the engine readiness. After you clear, there's monitors, readiness monitors that need to be satisfied in order to get the car inspected in cars and states that check for emissions. And so you could check the status of that often with these tools. With this particular one, I cannot, but that's what your limitation would be with this. Very simple reading, clearing, and only with the ECU module. Okay, now as far as SL Diagnostics, this is a proprietary one. I believe it covers the Elise, the Exige, the Evora, maybe some older models, and I think that they have maybe some plans to do the Emira at some point. Pretty handy tool. It's kind of got a little Wemos or whatever web page built into it. So it's basically a web page with a Wi-Fi hotspot that you connect to using your phone. So I'll cover what that looks like. But basically you plug it in, it powers it up off the OBD port, boots up, you see a Wi-Fi hotspot, you connect to it, and then you're able to get to this certain IP address in a web page. And then it presents you with the ability to, I guess, hit a button and runs a script in the back end, and it'll communicate to the various modules in the Lotus. Very handy, very convenient. You throw it in your glove box, kind of leave it there until you need it. I've definitely done it a couple times. I'm ready to move on from this one though, and I'll explain why when I get to the professional tool. But let me just give a quick overview of what this looks like from my phone, so you get to see what it actually looks like in action. All right, so what I've done is I've plugged the SL Diagnostic tool into my OBD port, and I just put the car to the on position, and that's going to allow it to both power up and now also reach the modules that it needs. So basically what you need to do is go into your wireless. You'll see a Wi-Fi hotspot come up starting with Lotus, Lotus Diagnostics. You're going to click on it. It's going to complain that it can't reach the internet, which is fine, so we'll disregard that. So you say connect only this time, and then it'll connect to the page. And so you're presented with this, obviously pretty intuitive. You want to get into the ECU, you click the ECU drop down. Mine is an Evora. You can see the support for Elise, Evora, and Exige. Hit ECU, and I could do get faults. It's going to read, hit OK, and it gives me the one soft error that I have here, which is a noise flap circuit. That's for the exhaust. That could be disregarded, but if I wanted to clear it, I could easily clear it there. I could also reset the ECU adaptations. Resetting ECU adaptations is good in case you make any changes to your exhaust, or intake, something that would change slightly the engine parameters, and basically it'll reset to a baseline baseline calibration, and then it'll build your long-term and short-term fuel trims or whatever off of that. So pretty handy. If you had a TCU, like an automatic transmission, you could do that, ABS, SRS, and TPMS. All very handy. And like I show you, it's a very simple page. You go in here. It's not going to be able to get the pressures because all the sensors are asleep, but it will give you a very simple data stream. It's not dynamic. I have to go in and basically get the data, a one-time pull each time I press that button. But it is useful in its own regard. It allows you to quickly assess if you had an error, what it might be. So I do like it, but I just kind of wanted to recoup some of the money from this because I went out and bought this new launch tablet, which I'll be jumping into momentarily. All right, and so this is the tool that you're going to want to have in case you have more cars in your fleet and you need to bounce around between them, whatever. So you have a generic scanner that's kind of universal. You have a proprietary one that's per model. This one's kind of a mix. It can do general diagnostics, just doing EOBD, but then it also has specific models for manufacturers and make, so that you could go into like a Porsche Taycan, Porsche Panamera, Lotus Elise, Lotus Evora, whatever. The list of supported vehicles would be under the vehicle coverage. And then the peculiar thing about this is it's a pretty expensive tablet. This one is priced around $2,000. The SL Diagnostic is around $250. The generic scanner is like $15 to $20. So definitely multiple times more expensive than a generic scanner, like an off-the-shelf one. But the benefits of this outweigh that if you're going to be doing some more serious diagnostics, which I'll get into. It comes with a smart box. In this case, this is kind of like a Wi-Fi dongle. So this I'm going to plug in under the dash in the OBDII port, and then I'll show you how it pairs with the tablet here, so that I could actually interface with the car and browse around the modules and see what it has to offer. So I'm going to go plug this in under the dash. I'll be right back. Okay, so I have the dongle connected, and I have the car on the on position. I'll go to local diagnose, Lotus. Now, I just want to say this. The tablet itself, you have an entry cost with that. You have a yearly subscription, and then on top of that, there's also these special premium modules that you can purchase, Lotus unfortunately being one of them. So not only did I have to pay the $2,000 for the tablet, it's also another $400 to $500 for the subscription for the software to get the annual updates, and then I have to pay an extra $70 just for the Lotus module. So it does get a little bit pricey, and that's why it's worth looking at these different options. But with the Lotus module, you can see I'm able to do reading of the ECU information, reading DTCs, clearing DTCs, reading data stream, and then actuation tests. So right there, this is the main benefit. The biggest one that I love is the reading of the data stream. So not only am I able to do a snapshot of some of these values so I could see statically what it is, I could graph it out over time, which is immensely useful. This also allows me to do TPMS sensor writing, which I was able to do myself. So TPS sensors, the factory ones that died, I was able to program replacements with no issues. And you can kind of look through, you can see all the stuff it allows you to do. I could write the VIN, write configuration data. So there's even options in here to change like the sport mode button, enable that or not. So I'll go in here, I'll wait for that to connect. The VCI is the vehicle interface, and that's that dongle that was plugged into the OBD port. And once it connects, just going to expedite this manual. You can see these are the modules that are, or these are the models that are supported by the module. I'm obviously going to go to Evora, 2011 Evora S, and Federal, since I'm in the US. And those are the modules I could scan. So just like the SL Diagnostics ones, there's 5 modules here. Although this IP one is a little bit different. So it doesn't, you notice there's no TCU. IP is the instrument panel. So that's, I guess, the cluster. But I'll just do EMS, which is the engine management. And then you'll get this menu. Version information is going to read the ECU. Tell you calibration ID, which I've used before, but this is kind of cool. Tell you ignition cycle counter, so how many times the car was power cycled or start cycled, along with reading some of these other values. So let's see what we got in here. Air monitor completion conditions count, evap 135, that's completed. So kind of cool. So you could see some things in here that you probably wouldn't see with any other tools. I'll just hit continue. Again, read DTC is exactly what these other things offered. However, it shows you P1113, which is this noise flap circuit. But then I could go right into the diagnostic manual. So code search will go online, and then this one will go into their own diagnostic tool if you had paid for it, which I didn't. I'm not going to do a trial right now either. But kind of makes it a little bit easy. If there was a freeze frame associated with it, you'd be able to read through that data as well, which will show you when that was captured, if a certain RPM, what coolant and all those other parameters when that error was actually thrown. I could clear DTC, actuation test. You could see I could do outputs. So I could activate evap, I could activate the fuel pump, intake control valve. So you could see how incredibly useful this would be. AC clutch control. So I've been diagnosing issues with my AC. I could activate the clutch right here. Just put it on, and I'll actually activate the solenoid. So pretty cool stuff that you're able to do this. It does tend to be a little bit buggy. This is a Chinese company. Competitor are OBDII. There's a Harbor Freight offering, and then obviously like Snap-on, some of the bigger names, but they all essentially do the same thing. And I don't want to talk ill of them, but some of the stuff is obviously knocked off or whatever. It's not perfect. Special function, you can see I could do all this other stuff. Do performance data reads. What am I gonna do? Oh, cool. All right, so this is all the performance data. So time at RPMs. Look at that. So it actually shows the amount of time in each RPM range. So that could be useful. You can see if the car's been tracked or beat on. And since this is a street-driven car, you can see the majority of the time is spent between 500 to 4,500 RPMs, and the majority of it between 1,500 to 2,500. So that's good. If I was a buyer of a car, especially an Evora, bring this along and use that as a negotiation. You see it spent almost no time above 7,000 RPMs, 6 seconds at some point. And I could actually tell you when that probably happened, when my floor mat got stuck into my throttle. So yeah, cool stuff. And then again, this data stream is indispensable. If I go to absolute throttle position, I'm going to click that, and you'll see what the value is right now. I can hit graph. There you go, graph. And it's a time graph right now. So it shows the range, and it shows it over time. I'm going to go in there right now and physically press the throttle so you can see what that looks like. Pretty cool, right? So there you go. Read values, see them over time. What's really cool about that, read data stream, I've used it for, say, target boost. I don't know if there's a value in here for that with turbos that have an electronic boost controller from the factory. That'll be 2 values you could do. So that's probably one of my favorites, is you could do requested boost versus actual. And then you overlay them. You could actually combine the 2 graphs and then see if there's a overlap or if you're falling short due to a boost leak, for example. You could even see stuff like the sport button, anytime the sport button's being pressed. So you see it's a conditional value, and if I push it, you see it's pressed. I can see it over time. I can see, read data stream, I can see the sport button by searching for it. Sport, cool. And then I could combine that with any of these other values. And I'm not really going to make any sense here, but if I do, I don't know, air intake, hit OK, it'll show those 2 values, and I could graph them, and I could combine them. So it'll actually combine those 2 values, and then if you wanted to see when I press the sport button, how it affects RPM, for example. RPM will definitely climb when you press the sport button, and you would see the sport button pressed, and then the RPM also go up at the same time. So just to give you an idea, that's me pressing in repressing the sport button. So you can see again a little square wave there, but that's basically how this is going to be used. If I go all the way back, I'll just drill into these other modules. This one I'm still in the middle of troubleshooting. I have a problem with my airbag high resistance on one of the airbags. So I'm going to go into SRS. Okay, and when you get into the SRS, you can see data stream. It gives me all these values here. I am throwing an error. Actually, let me go back to see that. Read DTC. I am throwing an error for front airbag left hand stage 2 high resistance. Okay. If I go to read data stream, so it's left hand, so it should be front. But I'm just going to look at all of them. So front airbag driver stage 1, stage 2, passenger stage 1 and stage 2. And we'll just hit OK. Look at that. So it shows the resistance readings. This is all dynamic. And you can see stage 2 is indeed showing much higher value. So it's about 3 times what it should be. That's not good. And this is obviously something I'll have to troubleshoot. But since that is relatively static, you see the other ones are bouncing around a little bit. I'm going to say it's a bad connection. Maybe the pin isn't connected at all. And then this is what it defaults to if it's an open circuit. So I'm going to check continuity between the airbag connection and then where it gets to the SRS module. So that's a pretty handy thing to use for troubleshooting. If I graph this out, you'll see actually what it looks like. So you get a little bit of variation with these. And then if you look at the stage 2 one, it's just flat. So I'm going to say that that's probably an open circuit. So just kind of one of the useful things with this. And this is obviously why I wanted this, this tablet. I've used this extensively with Audis and Porsche. If you go back to, I'll just show you how useful this can be. End the diagnostic session. I'll go to Lotus. Automatic search. So it finds it automatically. So that's cool. So auto detection, and then it'll bring you to the system topology. And I could do smart detection. It'll scan through the modules one at a time, and it'll report on the health. So you see EMS, ABS, SRS, TPMS, and then an IP, instrument panel. And that's basically it. So it shows you quickly what it was able to find on the bus. Audis and Porsche, there's like 20, 30, 40 modules that it finds. It's kind of crazy. So depending on the module that you have and the support that this software has for your particular car, you'll obviously get more options here. But very useful, visual. I could do report, and it's going to save the diagnostic report. Gives you a QR code that you can scan, which is really cool. So I could actually do QR code scanning. It uploads it, makes this accessible. I could embed it in like a URL or something like, or a web page or whatever, or share it with a friend, and then they'll be able to get to it. Or I could just give them a link to it. But you can see it's nice little report here where it shows you a breakdown of what it was able to find, and then the errors that it was able to retrieve from them. So super cool. And I guess I didn't really mention it yet, but this is the Pad 5. So this was the most economical launch tablet that I could find that allowed support of the Lotus. There are more expensive ones out there, I think like the Turbo 3 or something like that, but they're $3,000–$4,000. I did not want to spend that. This is a $2,000 tablet, but then I also got it on a sale that was a little bit under $1,000 with everything, and it came with a plethora of connective tools and different adapters and whatever, so I could use for programming my tire pressure monitor, like the actual sensors on top of what I'm already doing here. So you could buy these add-ons and all sorts of stuff. So universal Swiss Army knife equivalent of a diagnostic tool in my garage. Alrighty, so that's it for this video. I gave you all the tools of the trade. Basically, if you have any questions about the launch, what it's able to do for you, or just general diagnostic tips or whatever, feel free to reach out to me on the Facebook groups for the Lotus owners and the Evora, as well as on Lotus Talk. So anyway, if you like this video, like, subscribe. I'll be uploading more when I have time. All right, take care.